Big Don Pryor. We are back with our podcast talking about issues in SEO and, of course, the all-important steak and margaritas. Here's the deal. I've been running into this a lot lately, and you mentioned that you have too, is that, there's a low barrier to entry to our profession. Getting into SEO and websites is something you can do pretty easily. You take a week-long course and then you hang your shingle and you start offering this stuff to people. But as it turns out, many see the path to success. Few choose to climb the mountain. And we've just seen a lot of shady practices lately. Do you want to expound on some of those?
Absolutely. One problem that we've seen over the years, time and time again, is that when you get some sales-driven company where, some guy's cold calling you or emailing you, first of all, that story ends about as well as getting sushi from a gas station. You don't sign up with the guy who calls you, that you've never heard of, that gets you on the phone. And it's just some sales guy who isn't going to do any of the work and isn't even going to give you the time of the day once you sign up, right? Nope, now you're off to support and logistics. They're not even going to get back to you. And the support is just horrible and they're unresponsive and they don't do what they say they're going to do. You don't want to work with a company where you're so far removed from where the magic happens that you're just not going to be able to communicate or effectively get something done, even if the intention was there for them to want to do the right thing, right? You want to work with somebody who's going to work with you and isn't just, the sales guy is looking for the next sale, looking for the next sale, looking for the next sale. And if he's not getting it, he's just going to move on and he's going to dump you. And if he does get it, he's still going to move on and dump you and, hand you into the queue of a bunch of people in the cubicle, faceless people in the cubicle who don't know you, don't care about you, and just want to get their work done and go home.
Yeah, we're dealing with that right now with an existing client, right? Who we went to a solution that was supposed to work well with WordPress. And as it turns out, it didn't work very well. And we're just having a heck of a time getting through to those guys to try to change the solution a little bit. As a result, it delays the services that we provide to our clients. Our clients aren't happy. We're not happy. But there's a lot of shady work out there. I don't want to have any part of it.
No, I met this guy who owns a tree trimming business. He had just retired. He had sold it. But he told me, here, son, the 3 keys to a successful business are answer the dang phone and be polite. Do what you say when you say you're going to do it for the price you said you're going to do it. And then shake their hand and look them in the eye and say, thank you when the job's done. And he said, you'll have enough business for the rest of your life if you do those things.
Nice. Simple rules. The basics are always critical, right?
Right.
It makes the difference. In martial arts, we say that there's no such thing as advanced techniques, only basic techniques done really, really well. And I think that's true in business. You and I started, our business, which we called SEO Ann Arbor back in the day. And the premise was, hey, we're going to do work for Ann Arbor businesses. And you can sit across the desk and yell at us if you don't like what we do. That's, of course, a clever way of saying we're there for you. We're there in person, and we're going to solve any problems that you have. As a result, right, we've had, I don't know, last time we did the calculation, 15% year-over-year growth, pretty much since about 2008, with a few hitches along the way. Now, could we do better? I'm sure of it. But the fact is, we're in the business. We care about our clients. We pay attention to them. And, you and I put a lot of time in making sure that our team is in a position to do what they have to do to make our clients successful.
Another problem with the sales-driven SEO companies is that a lot of times, if you do sign up with them and they're selling you an off-the-shelf product for a fraction of the price of what it should cost, if getting on the front page of Google was as easy as writing a check for $250, everybody'd be on page 1, but it isn't. And if you and 10,000 other people are signing up to write that $250 check, not all 10,000 of you are going to be on page 1. I got news for you. But it's surprising how often people sign up and I've got SEO and it's not working. It becomes clear to them it's not working. And they come to us and say, hey, I had this SEO, but it's not really working. Can you do better? And we look and there's no evidence that any SEO has ever been done on their site.
Case in point, right? We're talking to a business right now that called us up, somebody I've known for years. He went out, started working with a new company. He's been doing a lot of the marketing for them. They have 2 different things, 2 different services they provide. They had 2 Wix websites built. We can go on about Wix at some other time. Yeah, he told me, hey, listen, I've had this SEO company for a year and a half. So we had our web guy go and take a deep dive. And he came back and said, there's no dive to go. There's no deep to dive. These are tiny websites with no discernible SEO. Okay, I don't know what those guys were paying for the last year and a half, but on-site SEO is a critical part of making sure that you rise in the search rankings. Those guys aren't in a good position on the search rankings. They were only paying a tiny amount of money every month. I mean, think about it this way. We live in a Midwestern city, Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's fairly affluent. We've done the calculations. Depending on the level of service, it costs us about 100 to 125 bucks an hour to deliver what we do. And so, and we 12, 16, 20 hours a month, depending on the client. So when people come to us and they go, oh yeah, I'm only paying 250 bucks a month or 300 bucks a month for SEO. It's unless they're working with somebody overseas, and in which case the personal aspect and the ability to hold them accountable is going to essentially vanish. There's just no possible way that can result in good SERPs, good search engine position, good engagement on social media or anything else.
No, nor is it going to result in good content on your website if the person that you're dealing with can't effectively communicate in the English language, which, for all of our customers, that's the target.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to think about, right? I'm going to pay somebody who doesn't speak English as a native language to write content that native speakers are going to be reading. And I want that language, that text, to help get them excited about what I do and build trust. That's the bots button. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
What I was thinking about, you mentioned gas station sushi. Years ago, I used to go to a climbing gym in Pontiac, Michigan called Planet Rock. And just down the street from it, I would pass it every time I went. Once a week, I'd drive by this place. There was a gas station, and it had 2 entrances. It was a gas station and soul food. I don't know why, but I feel like that has a slightly higher chance of success than gas station sushi. Like we know in town here, right here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, there's a gas station shawarma that's pretty effing good. So it's possible, but if you're going to put things next to a gas station, I don't think sushi should be in the top 10.
Absolutely not.
I've never had gas flavored sushi. All right, enough on that idea.
Listen to me.
Oh, yes, sir.
Another problem with the sales-driven SEO is not all salespeople, but a high percentage of salespeople are transaction-driven, right? If they're not getting that transaction, then they're done with you, right? And they'll be your buddy right up until you close that deal, then they disappear. Well, so they're doing it out of their best interest. Then you're off dealing with somebody else who may or may not be good, right? The sales guy was nice, but you're never going to deal with that person again. So you have no way of knowing what the company is all about. Now, over the years, we try to be very abundant with our customers, potential leads, spending a lot of time educating them, answering their questions. And when they say, this is really not for us, it's too expensive, it's this, it's that, we're going to try something else. We still answer their calls. We still respond to their emails. And often enough, they go sign up for somebody else. And a couple of years later, they come back and say, you know what? I signed up with these other people. It's not working. And then they signed me up for these 2 or 3 other plans. And I ended up spending up just as much as I would with you. And I'm not getting any results and they're not doing the work. And they come back because we weren't short-sighted and transaction driven on it.
Well, I don't want to live that way, right? I mean, even if it's good business practice, it's also good personal practice. I remember the story of you, when you used to work for a internet services company up in Hull, Michigan that got sold. And when that company wanted to offload a bunch of the clients and just dump them with no further ado, right? I mean, that resonated with me and resonated, I think, with everybody that hears the story. You said, listen, nothing doing. I live in this town. These are people I know. I provided services for them. I'm not just going to kick them to the curb. And that gave rise to your IT business. It's good business practice, but it's also, right, good ethics. It's good personal ethics. And that's the space I want to live in regardless. And it just happens to be good business practice as well.
Absolutely.
So, well, it's not quite time to shift to steak and margaritas. Any other things you want to weigh in on the concept of sales-driven SEO or shady business practices?
I'm glad you asked. Why, yes, there is. Listen, another peril of going with the sales-driven, transaction-driven SEO marketing company is we've seen it where people don't own their own stuff. Holy smokes, you're paying our customer was paying these people as much or more than they were paying us. And at the end of the day, it wasn't working. So they wanted to move their stuff to us, and they didn't own any of it. Now, I understand that there's web platforms out there like Wix where their secret sauce is they make this easy to use web builder. So of course, Wix isn't going to give us their secret sauce, but like all of the pictures and the words on the website is stuff that we could screen scrape and put into our system. And this other company's like, oh, no, 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 you don't own that. What do you mean we don't own that? It's our website. It's stuff written about us. No, 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 you don't own that.
Yeah, and I don't think they make a big deal out of that when you first sign up, right? They're probably gonna, that salesman is just like, oh, cheap, right? Cheap and easy, cheap and easy. Don't read the fine print. Then you get all that stuff and it works fine until there's a problem, right? Then you can't get a service guy on the phone. Can't get an answer to your emails. And as you said, you decide to switch carriers. They're not going to answer your calls then either. And moreover, as we just found out with a recent client, they're going to threaten to sue you if you use any of the content that they have on that website that's entirely about you, but nevertheless, they've created it, so they're going to own it.
I was just talking to my friends who are really good realtors, and realtors are salespeople, and a lot of them are transaction driven too. And if you're not going to buy something from them right then they're going to forget about you. Like, call me back in a year when you're ready, kid. These guys see the long view too. And Robin got mad at Mark because he answered the phone, and he was on the phone with somebody for 3 hours answering all their questions, and he's telling them the bad stuff along with the good stuff. And he's like, no. If somebody's smart and is asking you all these good questions, you got to tell them the good stuff and the bad stuff. That's how they appreciate you.
I think it's true. If you're in it for the long haul, trust is the most important commodity in business. And you're not going to build that level of trust by giving people rose-colored glasses, right? Doesn't mean you can't be optimistic or talk about the solutions, but I think you need to at least address the challenges as well. One of the challenges I face, good sir, is here at the moment, sunny, warm Midwest. It's very hard to find tri-tip. I have to order it if I want it because I almost never find it in the store. Whereas you on I don't know what you call that, the third coast, the tropics, the island of Maui, you say it's a little easier to find tri-tips where you are.
As a matter of fact, it is. I watched this guy I watch this guy on YouTube, Sam the cooking guy, and he pulls out these tri-tip steaks every once in a while. And it's like, I'd like to do that. And I go to the store in Michigan. It's like, there's no tri-tips. And he did mention, it's like, well, it's kind of a California thing. You may or may not be able to find it. So I'd given up on my lofty tri-tip ambitions until I came to the lovely island of Maui. And I went to the Times supermarket, which they don't have this fancy meat counter with all, they have, the stuff in the prepackaged shrink wrap sitting on the shelf. And there it was, a beautiful tri-tip just sitting there. I mean, they have it all the time. And there was one in there yesterday. And I am told, because I've had tough tri-tips and tender ones. And I've been told that the secret to getting a tender one is to get one of the smaller ones. If you get a big one, then it can be tough. If you get the smaller one, it's good. So there was a small one sitting on the shelf. There was just me and my lovely wife. I grabbed said tri-tip and proceeded with alacrity to go home and throw it on the grill.
And you did it old school. You just kept flipping it.
Yeah. So Sam the cooking guy style.
Okay, hold on. You're getting ahead of yourself. How did you, what spices, herbs, etc. were involved in this process?
I'm glad you asked. I had this vision of being all original and creative. And I came home and I mixed up some soy sauce, some olive oil, some sesame oil, and I threw it in a Ziploc bag and let it sit there and marinate as long as I could stand it. And then as I was doing that, I said, didn't Sam the cooking guy make a video on this? And I pulled it up, and that's exactly what he did. So I wasn't being original at all. I just So that's what I did. Olive oil, soy sauce, and a little sesame oil. And I think I squirted some sriracha in there too.
Ooh.
Why not?
Gas grill?
Gas grill, all clean, ready to go.
Listen, I think it's a whole show worth conversation, but I think if the grill's too clean, it takes something away from the experience. That's just my personal view. Now, heat setting, low, medium, high.
I did it on high with the lid open for the most part.
And flip until you were using an intuition to know when it was done? Using a meat thermometer? How'd you go about that?
I had an instant read meat thermometer. I did not use my meter. I just poked it when I felt like checking. The theory is that some people say, no, you only flip a steak once, and if you did it more than that, then you screwed up. And the Sam the Cooking Guy philosophy is, no, that first of all, that's no fun for me. And second of all, if you keep flipping it every couple of minutes, it basically does kind of like a reverse sear, where once you cut into it, it's edge to edge, medium rare, or whatever temperature you want. And I found that to be true.
Very nice. So tri-tip scale is probably different than the ribeye scale, but nevertheless, one has to ask, what is your rating for said tri-tip on the SAS?
I thought it was delightful. I thought it was an 8.9. It's not a Wagyu ribeye, but it was pretty darn good.
Sounds amazing. I think, I'm not 100% sure about this. I'm pretty sure that in the Midwest, the tri-tip ends up as stew meat, right? Because it starts to narrow down and they just cut that end off of the cuts, and then they, take the fascia off and chop it into chunks, and that becomes stew meat. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I would think. Now, have you and I addressed the topic of beef plate ribs on this show?
I don't believe we have.
Well, even if we have, it's worth readdressing. I don't know if people know this. It doesn't seem like very many people know this, but the fat in beef plate ribs is the most unctuous, salubrious, umami fat on the entire animal. I wish I understood why. I don't understand why. I guess I don't have to know that. But folks, go to your store and find beef plate ribs. Typically, they're cut into like 4 or 5 inch sections, and they're kind of rectangular. They look like rectangular cubes. And there's lots of ways to cook them. I cook them. I slow cook them. First, what I do is I spice them up, and then I brown them in the Dutch oven, and then I slow cook them with onions, garlic, a little olive oil, a little salt and pepper, and they just turn out amazing. Now, I have a tendency to cook them a little long, and so they get a little soft and sloppy. They're not pretty to look at, but they taste so good. And then here's the secret. We have about 45 seconds left. The secret in my world is to make some really good short grain rice, put it in a bowl, put one of those beef plate ribs on top of it, and then scoop some of that fat and rendered onion and garlic and pour it on that rice. That is one of the most satisfying comfort foods available on the planet. And that's just my opinion.
Sounds way better than gas station sushi.
I think almost everything is better than gas station sushi. All right, rock and roll. That's a little SEO. That's a little steak and margaritas. We haven't gotten on the margarita topic lately, but I'm sure we'll get back to that soon. Have a great day in Hawaii. Get on that dang mountain bike and don't have any seized up brakes.
No, we would try to avoid that.